Not that long ago, I made a video about shooting down bot dropships and whether or not it was worth it. And I was very happy with how that video turned out. So why am I making a part 2 or a redux? Well, Arrowhead decided to make a whole bunch of buffs, and with that they changed the way anti-tank works, which actually impacted the entire way that we interact with dropships now, and I think they made some stealth nerfs and buffs that I have yet to see in any patch notes. So, against my will, I am making a part 2 to should you shoot down bot dropships. Just like in the first video, I spent a long time shooting down as many dropships as I could for science to be able to get you the hard data so that we can determine whether or not it is worth your time to shoot down the dropships. If you didn't watch the first video, rather than linking and say, oh, go watch that first, I'm going to save you some time. Essentially, we broke it down that one of 5 things could happen if you shot down a dropship, even though I left one of those things off, sorry about that. And we typically ruled what would happen is most of the time something would glitch out and would cause problems. So usually it wasn't worth the gamble, especially because something else could get called in that you would need your anti-tank for more. Well, that has been completely flipped up on its head now with the way that the recoilless rifle and the spear now interact with dropships. First, a couple stealth buffs and nerfs that I noticed. 1. The Eye of Sauron detector towers are now incredibly nerfed. To make this video work, essentially what I'd do is I'd seek out one of the towers and I would just stand there and let as many dropships come as possible so that I could shoot them down. And these guys don't call in dropships nearly as much anymore. Like for part of this video, I was literally shooting at the eye to get its attention. It called in the ships, I shot down the ships, and it took so long for the second ship to be called in, like the second wave of bot drops from it watching me, it actually lost interest in me. Like it was staring at me, it was screaming at me, but it couldn't call in a bot, so eventually it just started looking around like it lost aggro on me even though I was still in its line of sight, even though it was still looking at me. Like it got bored of me. Also, dropships now despawn so much faster. So one of the main things that was causing us not wanting to shoot them down before was if it glitched, you would have enemies that were stuck in the glitch state and they'd be firing at you and there was nothing you could do about it, and that was a terrible situation to be in. I noticed most of the dropships are gone within 30 seconds now, even if they glitch. Meaning that downside is greatly reduced. But here's the new data. Both the recoilless rifle and the spear can one-shot the dropships no matter where you hit them. And in fact, you don't want to aim for the engine anymore. If you hit the, quote, belly or the cockpit, it will destroy the ship in one shot and everything on it will be destroyed with it. And because the spear locks on, you can shoot from a far distance and knock it down before it's even close to the party. Now, I will caveat that and say that it is very tricky to do. The ships move very fast and the spear's lock-on is a little slow and the missiles do tend to miss. And the only way to mitigate that is to know where the dropships are coming from. The good news is once you know where the first dropship come from, they will always come from that same direction. Once you know that, you can anticipate where they're coming from and snipe them before they even get close. Same with the recoilless rifle. If you know where they're coming from, you line up the shot and you take them down and it will destroy every single bot every single time, and they'll be so far away from you that even if for some reason it didn't happen, they won't get close to you. I've also now seen tanks get destroyed in midair with this tactic, whereas before they would still just drop and be completely fine. And the dropship damage seems to have been buffed. I shot down a dropship and it landed on a Hulk and took it down, like full on took it down. Now that could be that dropship damage was buffed, or that could just be with the way that the armor is now nerfed and they have lower overall health, or the way the armor penetration works. Something changed that means those dropships are doing way more damage when they're hitting. So combine that extra damage with the ease of shooting them down with the spear or recoilless rifle, the fact that they despawn way faster once they're shot down, and you are much more likely to destroy absolutely everything, there now is no reason not to destroy the ships. And I'll even back that up by saying one of the main reasons in the first video we said that you shouldn't do it is because what happens if you need your anti-tank and you fired your last shot, or you're stuck reloading and it drops a whole batch of Hulks on you, or a tank on you, or something, and you're not prepared to deal with it? Well, now that we have thermite grenades that actually function as they should, and your team is overall more effective, the chances of you being in a situation where no one has anything to deal with that surprise Hulk or whatever it may be are so low, combined with your odds of taking something down being so high now if you're shooting down the dropships. The only reason I would say that you should not shoot them down is because they run the risk of getting hit by them. And with our overall health decreased, they will take out a Helldiver. So I say take them down every single time unless your team is directly in the area where they're going to be landing and you know that you're going to shoot down that ship and it's just going to crash land to them and take out your own team. Don't do that. I did also notice significantly better results when you are no longer targeting the engines. When you hit the engines, the dropship will spin around in a circle and kind of crash at an angle. And while this is unconfirmed, this is my theory. A part of the reason why bots weren't being destroyed when that happened is because they would spin at angles and they would land at an angle. And as you know, the game has a little bit of janky code in it. And I think that landing at an angle was causing those explosions not to hurt everything as they should have. Kind of similar to how the old 500 kg people speculated that the way the damage radius was being calculated would cause it to only hurt things above it. I think the explosion of the dropship at an angle was causing the explosion damage to basically go over the head of the things that was crash landing on top of, causing them to walk away unscathed. So if you hit it dead on in the belly or on the cockpit, it's going to go straight down or it can continue its momentum and move forward, and that crash damage is all going to be applied on top of the enemies going down. It is also worth noting, since I talk about the belly shot, there is one risk to the belly shot. And this is even more so with the spear, since you can't control it nearly as much as you can with the recoilless rifle. If the belly shot hits an enemy instead, one that is carrying, it will not one-shot the carrier. So it is higher risk to go for the belly shots, and again, you can't control that with the spear, but if you're on a recoilless rifle, obviously you're just aiming for the cockpit or where there's not a bunch of enemies coming down. Interestingly enough, I believe that the top of the dropships either have extra armor or maybe some sort of invulnerable or are not calculating damage. During this process, I was able to hit a dropship with a orbital napalm barrage, a Gatling barrage, and one of the Eagle strikes, and none of them caused significant enough damage for the dropship to be impacted in any noticeable way. Like the dropship that got hit by the orbital napalm literally was just like on fire and flew off with the fire on it. Did nothing. One thing that I would love to try, but I don't even see how it'd be feasible to try, would be to flamethrower one down. Because we know the flamethrower can cook the belly of the factory striders, and we know that it can do significant damage through armor fast. I'm kind of curious, if you were high enough up, could you cook a dropship from beneath it and hit the belly and take it down? If anyone is curious to try, please give me some results. I would love to know if you could do that. I also think we can remove from the first video talking about how there's different outcomes that can happen. Because in my research, it really didn't seem to happen that much. Now there's two outcomes that can happen. You either miss your shot and nothing happens, or you hit your shot and everything gets destroyed as it should have been happening from the beginning. Now, as you can see in the corner, I was testing this on level 8s because I felt like that was manageable, where I could take everything down and get good data without being under pressure. And I was able to destroy the dropships with such fervor, with such accuracy, with such good results, that I never once was in any danger of dying. And I never got overwhelmed by having a simple autocannon sentry to help clean up any patrols that were walking up towards me or any strays. Very often I felt like I was able to completely manage enemy drop-ins. So if you have one or two people dedicated to this, where they are constantly aiming to take down the bot ships as they're coming in, because again, look to where they're coming from, you know where they're going to be coming from, so if they're always watching that, I think this is a real game-changing strategy for 10s and hopefully soon higher. Because it's much easier not to get overwhelmed when you're able to take down 20, 30, 40 enemies with one anti-tank shot. One last note, I said it before, but the spear is unreliable in this, in that the rocket kind of has a mind of its own. So you're going to need to practice, otherwise you are going to be missing those shots and this whole strategy will be worthless for you. And there you have it. As of the new patch, should you shoot down enemy dropships? The answer is an overwhelming yes. In almost every single situation, barring one niche scenario, you should be shooting those down. It is going to manage the enemies so well. Go out and try this and drop a comment down below. What is the most kills you got off of one dropship? And always, if you can like, comment, subscribe, all that sort of stuff helps me. I hate saying it, but statistics say if I say it, it helps. So please help me out. And finally, as always, I appreciate you watching the video. I appreciate you hanging out with me. Have a blessed day.